So we're going to mass distribute the vaccine in just a few short weeks. It's going to be coming out very soon, and we will quickly eradicate the virus, wipe out the China plague once and for all, get it the hell out of here.
You know how I was telling you a year ago that the American people should really enjoy where we were because it was pretty much as good as it was going to get? I was right. I'm also going to tell you this right now. We have something to look forward to. We will beat this virus at some point. Even if it becomes endemic within the population, it will be something that is manageable and controllable to the point where only the most over-anxious and just absurd, worriers are going to think that they can't go about normal life at that point. When I'm talking about with even better therapeutics, with more vaccines. There's some nanoparticle vaccine they're testing now on mice that's 10 times stronger than even the antibodies you get after. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that's coming. I mean, think about it. The whole world's resources in the medical realm have been focused in on this issue. So yes, it's incredibly complicated. It takes time, but we are gonna beat this thing. And just imagine what that'll be like at your first barbecue. At your first wedding, or as a guest, or whatever. Going out to the bar, going out to your local watering hole, your favorite, pizzeria in the neighborhood, and everyone's just jammed shoulder to shoulder, laughing, coughing, talking, whatever, right? And no one cares. We will get back there. That is coming. And I'm telling you this, I'm trying to remind everybody of this because we have been artificially depressed on purpose by the media to make us all feel like Donald Trump has presided over this horrific event that's his fault. It is a terrible situation, but it's all his fault. That forget about the fact that Europe is now having extreme lockdowns again. I always say lockdown. We're talking stay-at-home orders now. We're talking you're not allowed to leave your home. That's now becoming a rolling new series of policies in major European countries. I don't think it's Donald Trump's fault. I don't think it's the non-mask wearers' fault that that's happening. But that's what they'll tell you. That's what the plan will be. Notice how little you've heard about the vaccine. I have had in the last week or so, I had the White House doc, who's one of the top people on Operation Warp Speed, which, as you know, is the vaccine development group that the White House has set up. And when this thing is finally out there, I mean, this will be the fastest from outbreak to vaccine that medicine has ever gone. So to call it warp speed is entirely fair. You're not hearing about that, though. See, friends, they got a couple things. One is that bad news always does better for the media. Bad news gets attention, right? I could sit here and tell you the sky is falling. We're all going to die soon. We're all going to die eventually, but we're all going to die soon. China's going to invade tomorrow. You can just talk about all this crazy stuff, but people will listen. When you tell people, because it comes from a place of honesty and you want them to feel better, when you tell a lot of folks, hey, we got things to be optimistic and positive about. Yeah, some people understand that that's important to hear too, but a lot of folks, oh no, you don't want to say that. Say, if it bleeds, it leads. Tell us stories of calamity and how America's best days are behind it and all this kind of stuff. Look, if Joe Biden wins, America's best days may be behind it, but I'm an optimist. What can I tell you? I'm an optimist because you got to be, and this is an ethos. I talked to you about wartime conservatism, but you got to be a happy warrior. Got to understand that at the end of the day, what matters is who you are, what you do with your life. We're all pushing for the least onerous government possible, and the government that can be a government that can be more moral in its actions, more fair in the way that it applies the law, and that respects individual rights and constitutional principles. It's never going to be perfect, and we're going to have losses as well as victories. We know that. So we take a mature approach to all this. We view all this, I think, in the way that adults should. Now, when I say we, I mean that's the general ethos of conservatism. Democrats are going to melt down like the witch in The Wizard of Oz after water is thrown on her. They're melting, and they're not going to be able to handle it at all. Act like a bunch of crybabies if they lose. If they win, oh my gosh, they're going to be sore winners, which is fine. See, the thing is, I don't care if they do break dances in the end zone, so to speak. I don't care. Fine. Okay. If they manage to, so they hoodwink the American people with this, geriatric buffoon Biden. And in a pandemic year, they were able to squeak out a victory against Donald Trump. They really think that Trump is done after this? They really don't think that one of Trump's children is going to run, or somebody who was very close to the administration who's already in elected office and will carry the mantle of Trumpism forward isn't going to run in 4 years? It's not over, friends. Right? Now, if they take the Senate and they take the White House and they hold the House, maybe time to start looking at property in Costa Rica. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's time to start thinking about it. See, we don't do that. I'm just kidding. We don't do that thing that all the libs do. I'm going to move. I'm going to leave. Sure you are. Sure you are. Yeah. They're going to go some far, far off place where they won't get nearly as much attention when they talk about how their politics are not working out the way they want them to. But we are going to have a vaccine soon. I want to go back to this. We're going to have a vaccine. You're not hearing about it. It's weeks away from approval. Once it's approved, if we get this vaccine to, the first 10, 15, 20 million Americans who get it, if they're in that high risk category, so frontline healthcare providers, and then people just in the general population who have a comorbidity and are also over the age of 65, and we get that vaccine out there to them, you're going to see huge benefit. Already, the case number, and they don't talk to you about this. I think COVID is the biggest story of this year by far. I know other people are going to spend most of today on Hunter Biden's laptop. Friends, I always tell you the truth. Look, I think if I was just chasing ears and ratings all the time, I would nothing but Hunter Biden laptop all day, all night, all the time. I don't think that's what's going to determine Ohio, Florida, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. I don't buy it. I'm glad the story's out there. I think people did great work on it, and it showed beyond any doubt how corrupt and dishonest the media is. So don't get me wrong. But if we're really talking about how in this last moment, as I'm speaking to you, people are in line across the country making this decision. Maybe even some of them are listening to this show before they're going, or perhaps even in the line. And I'm trying to defeat this faulty narrative that COVID is Donald Trump's fault, because I think that that's the way the Democrats believe they're going to win this thing. And they just ignore the Hunter Biden thing the way that they have, because the people that really get worked up about that have already known that Hunter Biden was scummy and that Joe Biden was running a influence peddling operation. And we've already known that. And I always tell you, I remind you, I said the same thing about Benghazi, and I was right. It was great for Trey Gowdy's media career, but it didn't actually do anything. The hearings I'm talking about, it didn't, who went to jail? Did it even stop Hillary Clinton from, you could try to argue that, but the emails were a much bigger deal for Hillary than Benghazi was. I don't even remember people even talking about. I tried to get Benghazi Hillary going for a while as a joke. It didn't even work. People wouldn't even bring it up. COVID is the deciding factor in this year, in this election. And that's why it's important to remind everybody that vaccines are coming, that Trump got the PPE, Trump used the Defense Production Act, he did listen to the experts. I mean, they're saying, think about how warped this mentality has become. The claim is that Donald Trump didn't listen to the experts. Meanwhile, Trump shut off travel from whole regions of the globe by executive order, shut down our borders, and assisted and, yes, enabled states in unprecedented lockdown and stay-at-home orders. This has never been done before. And it was done on the advice of experts. And they say he did not listen to the expert. Well, how is this claim even remotely credible? How is this something that anybody could believe at this point? Just look at what's actually happened. In fact, one of my criticisms, and I will tell you, I'm very happy that to this day, the one thing when I had my hour-long sit-down with the president back in May in the Oval, and we talked about a lot of stuff, some on the record, some off the record, the off the record was mostly what I think about different people in different parts of the government that I remember from my time. And the on the record stuff, I've shared some with you here, but the big part of it was I looked at him and I said, Mr. President, just please, sir, no second lockdown. And he looked at me and he said, Buck, we're not doing it. We're going to put out the fires as we go. You've heard him use it. I asked him that question, and what he said to me, and I'm not trying to make a big deal of this, I'm just trying to tell you the truth. What he said to me, he then went out and blasted to, because he realized I got to get out. We got to make sure people know I'm not pushing for a second lockdown. And he talked about the same putting out the fires as they come up idea. He said that to me in the Oval, and for the first time ever, I saw him. Now, I probably should have reported that when he said it to me, but I was more focused on the conversation with the leader of the free world and not trying to run out there and tweet about it right away. But he said, we're not doing it. And he was definitive on it. And, he was absolutely locked in on why we should not lock down again. And that's going to be a huge difference between what you see if you have a Biden win versus a Trump win. They will lock down the country. Let me give you my example of the mentality here. I was in Afghanistan in 2010. I was effectively the intel liaison to the 4-star general running the theater at the time. We're theater of operations, and so I was everything from the intel side that was going to him. I was bringing, involved in bringing to him, briefing him on, and I was seeing all this stuff. And I remember the Obama administration comes in, early on. Before I was in country, the Obama administration had come in, and their whole thing was Iraq was the bad war, Afghanistan's the good war. So there was this whole effort to come up with, well, we're just going to leave Iraq because, and then we're going to do all the stuff in Afghanistan. They had a big policy review in Afghanistan. This is the Obama administration, big policy review. And then they're going to figure out, because they're the smart people, Obama, Biden, that whole team, they're the smart people, they're going to fix it. Well, I was there, and I remember thinking, there's no way that what they think they're going to do here is going to work. And no one in country at the time who knew Afghanistan well thought it was really going to work. But they, surged 100,000 plus troops in country and did all this stuff. They did it because Obama didn't want to look weak, and he had made the case, and he had to follow through on the case that he made, come hell or high water. Didn't matter what the reality on the ground was. That same mentality is going to be why Joe Biden takes us into a series of continued draconian COVID. This is what I've been saying. I must be right. Let's do that thing. Irrespective of when you actually are in that decision-making seat, different than being in the election. Irrespective of what people who really know the data and know the facts are telling you. So no. I said this must be true, so therefore we're going to do it. We're heading into lockdowns like we've never seen before if Biden wins. Because they're right. That's what they think. Because we're right, we're going to do this to prove to everybody. And it's unfalsifiable. That's the thing about it that's the most annoying for me. Well, a lot of things about it are annoying. But they're going to claim that whatever the numbers are, they would have been much worse. Whatever they make us do, whatever nonsense they put us through with the masking and distancing and all this stuff that they're going to mandate now, which means the force of government is behind it, which means they're going to have to punish people. They're going to have to actually make you do this stuff, or else it's not a mandate. Whatever it may be, they're going to say, we saved lives. And the media will say, yes. The media will all be chirping right alongside them. They saved lives. They saved lives. Look what they did. Not going to be true. In fact, you know how they always talked about how Trump inherited the Obama economy? If Biden wins, he's going to inherit the Trump virus response, which is basically about to hand him a vaccine. And do you think Biden's going to give credit if he takes over in January and the pandemic by March is basically done because the virus has been distributed for the vaccine's been distributed for 90 days? You think Biden and anybody else is going to say, wow, I guess the Trump administration and warp speed did it? No, they're going to say, yeah, we won. We fixed it. Get ready for it. I recently got a crash course in home title theft, and you better pray this crime never happens to you. Here's how it works. The bad guys find your home's title online because it's in the cloud, it's stored on servers, and then they use a quitclaim deed to kick you off, put themselves on, and take out loans against the equity in your home. You often won't find out about this until you receive the payment notices in the mail or perhaps even a foreclosure notice. Take action today to protect yourself. Create a virtual barrier around your home's title with Home Title Lock. Just go to HomeTitleLock.com, use the promo code RADIO for 30 free days of protection. You can also check online to see if you're a victim of this crime and don't even know it. All you have to do is go to the site right now, HomeTitleLock.com, use the promo code RADIO. You'll get 30 free days of protection, and you can check in that site to see if perhaps your home's title has already been breached, because a lot of people don't even know. HomeTitleLock.com, promo code RADIO, 30 free days of protection. Take action today.
Think of this now. The President of the United States of America was responsible for so many deaths. He had the goal to suggest that American doctors, the people who have been on the front lines of this crisis for 9 months, along with nurses and so many others, many of whom have died, to suggest that doctors are falsely inflating deaths due to COVID because they want to make more money. I'm serious, man. This guy's a disgrace.
Why is that so unbelievable? Someone's died. They may have had COVID. Maybe they have a positive COVID test. PCR testing, Joe Biden doesn't know this. PCR testing amplifies what's in your system dramatically to see if they can determine an infection. So it can pick up old dead virus in your system. I mean, there's PCR testing is highly imperfect. So if you run a PCR test on somebody, it says they've got COVID, but they died of any number of other things. I mean, listing that as a COVID death, if it also means that there's going to be additional federal funding that goes to the hospital for that treatment, why wouldn't they do that? Right? If someone's dead, I mean, they tried to save them. There's nothing you can do about it at that point. Why? I mean, really think this one through. Why is that so beyond the pale as far as Biden? No, because it's demagoguery from Biden. This guy has been a shameless, brainless demagogue his entire life. That's all he is. Just a mouthpiece for Democrat slogans. Does not know anything, is not smart, does not have good ideas. His only success is in saying what he has to say to keep getting reelected. And until recently, even the Democrats kind of understood this. They were like, yeah, I mean, that guy's a loser. We're not gonna elect him. Oh, now they got nothing else. Oh, well, there's also Kamala. Here's what Trump says about Kamala. Play 21.
Our country could never be the same country if they win because they're radicalized left. Joe Biden will never call the shots, and if he does, he's not going to be there very long. He's got a vice president who's further left than Bernie Sanders, who is not a particularly good person, and she would be, I think, a terrible first representative if she became the first woman president. I think it would be a terrible thing for our country. I think it would be a terrible thing for women.
Remember Kamala Harris, if she does step in for Biden, which I know that's something that people will say, and it's one of these predictions that no one's going to be held to account for if it doesn't come to pass. I do believe it's going to happen. I think if Kamala Biden win this, or Biden Harris win this election, there's a very good chance Joe Biden steps down and gets to look. If I were Joe Biden, I was almost 80, and I could be a hero for all eternity, written about in the history books as the man that brought about, who was, wingman to the first African-American president of the United States, although I guess technically Eric Holder said he was wingman, but you know what I mean? The number 2 to the first African-American president, and then was also the guy who brought into being the first female African-American president. Joe Biden's a hero for all eternity. Why mess that up with being a terrible president?
I noticed that Biden went out, and I think he's campaigning a little because he's worried. We've seen tremendous swing changes. We've seen, actually, in the last 3 days, I hope it reminds me of 4 years ago. Tremendous changes have taken place over the last week. Tremendous. And
like what?
we think we're winning Texas very big. We think we're winning Florida very big. We think we're winning Arizona very big. I think we're going to do very well in North Carolina. I think we're going to do very well in Pennsylvania. We think we're doing very well everywhere. And it's more than thinking. We're seeing trends.
Right.
And so you can tell this isn't just like taking a poll. This is based on trends. And we think we're doing very well in states. A lot of states, really. A lot of states.
Could you just hear the president's exhaustion there? And I play that for you because I like to hear the president's optimism about this. Of course, at this phase, he's going to be optimistic. He's got to be, right? But, I mean, this guy, I was talking to you before about a happy warrior. President Trump's in his 70s. Guy's worth whatever it is, $1 billion plus. And he is going all out to get reelected. I mean, when you used to hear the media say, he doesn't even want to be president. He's going to finish. Remember, that was a way to get on MSNBC or CNN for years. Just go on TV if you had ever worked for Trump or knew Trump. Oh, he's not even going to finish. This is before the Mueller probe was over, right? Oh, he's going to step down. He doesn't even want to be president anymore. That's what they used to say. This guy is like an ultra marathoner in politics. He has been doing rally after rally all over the place, showing you what hunger for victory really looks like. And for somebody at his stage, at his age, to go after it with this kind of just ferocity and tenacity, this guy's amazing. One thing, and there's a lot of, I guess, I want to have some Trump appreciation with you today. It's one of the things I want to do because however this election shakes out tonight, and it's crazy that we're here on Election Day and it feels like the time is just flying by. But however it actually ends up going down, I just feel like you got to think this guy has an almost inhuman level of endurance and energy. Endurance for the hatred, for the slings and arrows of the media and the Democrats and everything. That's really one of Trump's superpowers. He doesn't apologize, and they can't make him bend the knee. They can't slow him down. They can't stop him. He just keeps fighting. He just keeps coming. It's a really important life lesson. The older I get, the more challenges that I've seen, and as I watch not just my own life, but other people that I know, how things work out for them. And, one of the biggest factors going into any, how you do those pre-game analysis of, the quarterback has this rating and this is how many yards per carry for the running back and all this. If I'm doing that with a person for any challenge in life, the thing that I want to know is, do they have endurance? Do they have endurance and are they durable? Will they stay in it and will they take incoming? Because if someone's really good at that, the odds all of a sudden flip to their side. And Trump politically is just a beast when it comes to that stuff. I've never seen anything else like it. Can you imagine? They call this guy a rapist, a traitor, a tax cheat. I mean, I can't even think of all the stuff they've said about him. He's crazy. I mean, like actually not of sound mind and should be replaced with the 25th Amendment. They'll say all this stuff. And he just looks at them and he goes, yeah, you're fake news. And I'm gonna sign this trade deal. I'm gonna, get this agenda item done that I promised Trump voters in 2016. Look, he hasn't finished the wall, but there have been a few hundred miles of wall built. And people who say, oh, it's just upgraded fence, they don't know what they're talking about. The difference between the wall that Trump has built and what was there, I've seen it. I've touched it. I've been at the wall and been at the fence. And what you had in place before is a decrepit joke that you could walk past or get over in a second. I mean, it'd be like walking into if you're at a horse farm or something, you have to hop over a horse fence. It's kind of like that. It really wouldn't stop anybody. The stuff they've put in place, the metal slats, that's the most effective one that I've seen, and the double layer fence that they've built, you better be really dedicated to get across that, and the chance of you, if you try to illegally cross, being arrested and being processed, pretty high. It's a huge difference. But the Democrats used lawfare and every trick they could to stop the wall building process and to slow him down. And there were some successes they had with that. But if there are lessons you can take from this Trump era for yourself, and I try to remind myself of it. I mean, here's a guy who could just be, he's got a beautiful family. He's got grandkids. He's got friends everywhere. He's a TV star. Mar-a-Lago. God knew whatever. This guy can just play golf and, hang with his beautiful family and play with his grandkids and, eat the best food and fly private everywhere. He do whatever he wants. And he's doing this. He's putting himself in a position where people are trying to actively ruin his reputation, make him a pariah in American society, imprison his children. They don't ever forget that. They wanted to take down Trump's family. It wasn't just enough to try to end his presidency. They wanted to see Donald Trump Jr. marched in handcuffs, state charges if they could, right? So Trump couldn't even pardon him. That was the plan. This is what the other side was trying to do. Did you ever feel like Trump at any phase, at any point in this, just didn't have the fight in him anymore? I'm just telling you, this guy's amazing. It's amazing what he's done. And what he's been willing to push through. And he really is the leader for the right. He's the first one through the breach, waving his sword around, yelling at everybody else to, hop over the rubble and get in the fight. And that's rare. That's a rare thing. This guy has been taking it head on. He has been at the forefront of this fight. It's not like Democrats have all these minions and the media and all these people out there doing all the, Joe, what is really the Joe Biden campaign? It's the mainstream media trying to convince America how great Joe Biden is. No one hears Joe Biden speak or looks at his record or anything and thinks, oh, yeah, this guy's impressive. Come on. Trump, on the other side, is the guy leading the movement. I mean, he is at the front of the cavalry charge. And he's gotten more and more of us behind him who aren't only just saying, I'm with you. We're saying, I'm with you till the end, man. Where are we going next? The movement that this guy has inspired and the ways that he's been. I mean, Trump has been the most pro-life president in my lifetime. I got to tell you something. I don't usually get into this stuff in this kind of a personal way. I got a little nephew right now. Some of you may have seen the photo on Instagram. Most beautiful little boy you could ever see. I mean, it's amazing. I've never had a nephew, from my immediate family before, and it's my little sister's son. He's absolutely the cutest thing possible. And without getting into too much here on this, I give Trump so much credit for being the most pro-life president and putting forward judges that are considered an existential threat. And you know what? Now that she's confirmed, I hope she is.
It really is unbelievable. The fact that people are boarding up their businesses for an election should alarm us. I mean, if anyone needed any more proof that he didn't make America great again, there's plywood in the windows at the Wetzel's Pretzels across the street from us. Our pretzels are being threatened by this man. What else do you need? It's like you'd think we were preparing for a zombie attack. Nobody knows what's going to happen.
We're preparing for a Democrat attack, Jimmy Kimmel. We all know it. Who does the looting? Who does the rioting? Who commits the arson in the name of political differences? Democrat. Who did this all summer in cities throughout the country? Biden voters. We know this. It's not up for debate. It's not up for discussion. At all these BLM rallies and, Antifa mayhem sessions, they have anti-Trump hatred all over the place. They absolutely despise this president. And they want the left and the Democrat Party as the vessel for the left to be in charge. But look at the way that they make jokes about this as if we're all morons. Yeah, the windows are boarded up because of Biden voters. And I live on a street where there are boarded up stores right on my block. I've got family members who are saying that they're not going to go out after dark tonight. And, we've lived in New York our whole lives, but who knows what the rioting mobs are going to do. I don't want to be out near that. Democrats, though. No one thinks it's going to be an army of red MAGA hat wearers running around, destroying businesses, lighting things on fire. We all know it's going to be Biden voters. When you look online and see where you have the most shrill illegal and insane tactics in the name of politics, it's from Democrats. This is why I got so frustrated with that bridge closure from Trump supporters the other day. It's like, guys, don't do that. This 100% belongs to the other side. Being a political baby, being a sore loser, being a crybaby that has to get his or her way and is going to scream in people's faces and wants to deplatform people and yell at them in restaurants and just act like brats. That's a Democrat thing. That's their political culture. We should never let this be muddied up. We should never let people feel like, well, it's on both sides. It is absolutely not on both sides. It is an extreme, isolated occurrence on the right. It is standard operating practice on the left. That's why, New York City is boarding up the fanciest, highest end shopping district in New York and one of them in the world, Fifth Avenue, right near where I live. And is that because they think that Trump supporters are going to riot? Trump supporters are outvoted in Manhattan, where I live, 8-1. We think it's going to be Trump support. And of course, no one thinks that. No one believes that. But they just go around spewing this nonsense. It will be Democrats. It will be Biden voters who are out in the streets destroying stuff. Maybe even if they win, because that's how they celebrate. They like that rush of power and the lack of accountability they can just marinate in. Here's the president pointing this out. He's just saying, look, when you see what's going on in these cities, it should be very clear to everybody who's to blame. Play 20.
I think it's very sad, and part of the reason is it'll all be in Democrat cities, Democrat-run cities. It's going to be in Chicago, New York, and Portland, and Oakland, and different places, Baltimore, and that's because of weak leadership, weak leadership, and my side is a very strong side if they wanted to, but they don't like doing that. They're proud of our country. They don't want to hurt our country. But the other side is radicalized Antifa. And frankly, if you let people know that there will be hell to pay, you wouldn't have any problem. But they don't do that. They have the cops stand back and watch looters walk washing machines and televisions out of stores. It's a shame to watch it.
And yet they worry about Trump stealing the election. That's the main story you'll see today. Not that cities are preparing for an enormous wave of unrest. Why can't we just call them riots? I don't know why we keep unrest. Unrest is what I have after, drinking a little too much coffee before I go to sleep. That's unrest, okay? These are riots. We should use the word. They're not mostly peaceful protests. They're riots. And they're Democrat riots. And they're riots that Biden voters are going to engage in because they just simply emotionally and psychologically cannot handle the implications of the loss that I certainly hope President Trump is going to deliver them, and we will see. By the time many of you listen to this, you'll already know where we stand. I'm having to do this in advance because then we're going to be going into some live coverage tonight. I'm running all over the place, so you will know more than I do at this stage of the show about where things stand. But I know where the country stands right now, and I know what's happening in these cities. And anybody who tells you anything other than the Democrats have been reckless and irresponsible and cities have paid the price for it is just full of it. Just full of it. In fact, I worry because, I know a lot of you say, Buck, you're in New York. You get what you pay for there, right? Yeah, but there are a lot of Republicans that live in many cities. And people have homes or they live in the immediate suburbs. They have homes and they can't just pick up and leave. They got their kids in school. It's not always as easy as just get up and go. Yeah, you do have that option, but you'd rather not in many cases, even if you're living in some blue stronghold like New York, D.C., San Francisco. But I think the exodus is going to accelerate dramatically, whether COVID is cured in the next 6 months or not, or cured dramatically lessened, whatever we want to say, right? Whether COVID by next summer, I think, is when we might actually be in a place that people aren't really worrying about it the way they are right now. I think that's realistic. I think that's a realistic timeline. But if there are political riots and if neighborhoods are destroyed, remember, they always say, it's only the Democrats that try to excuse this stuff. They'll say, it's only 10 businesses that were destroyed in this area. Okay, first of all, if you owned or worked in one of those businesses, you'd probably feel very differently about that, libs. But also, what do people think that does to the property values when everyone sees that, if you lived in the part of Minneapolis, whether residential or commercial property there, and you were near the burned down police station, you think that helps your ability to get a new lease for a business in your building? You think that makes your property value do better or worse? Who's going to buy a house down the block from the burned out police precinct? I wouldn't sign up for that. That doesn't make me feel good about a long-term future in that area. So they're going to, while they'll just say it'll be in parts of cities, the unrest that we're all expecting, the riots, use the word, Buck, the riots that we're all expecting, it has ramifications far beyond that. I think it'll really show that cities are going to become increasingly lawless places because libs, leftists, they have to really suffer. It has to turn into New York City in the early 90s. When I lived here, and you have to feel constant dread, constant fear when you go out at night and in certain neighborhoods, and not even dangerous neighborhoods, just neighborhoods that are, could be dangerous. And then eventually opinions change. Then eventually law and order becomes something that people really want on both sides of the aisle. But the Democrats, they need to suffer for a long time before they figure that out.